Good morning, everybody. Once again, it is Tuesday here in Chicagoland, and we are live. If you received my newsletter and know that Lisa Nicer had been scheduled for today, however, she is a tax accountant, which means she's super busy. We had delayed it till now to get over the April deadline, but when they backed the date of deadlines up, I asked her if she wanted to change her date. And she said, yes, please. So you are getting me today. Happy May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Right. I had to get out one of these Star Wars mugs because my family, huge Star Wars fans, uh, Marvel fans, all of it. And so I need to show my support. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I have been having a lot of conversations, and last week I even did a uh, webinar slash discussion on this idea of returning to the office, or reentry, as I like to call it. There's always a lot of excitement around the space shuttle, lifting off and taking astronauts the to the space station or things like that. But there's very little pomp and circumstance when people return, or when the pod returns, and it turns all red and it's all shaking and they're entering the atmosphere, and it's probably, or I could imagine it being more scary than necessarily the liftoff. And so that's kind of, I think, a good analogy that we have been uh, so worried, or there was so much talk about slamming everybody to work from home simultaneously, but we're not re-entering simultaneously, and everybody's re-entry is going to be a little bit different. And it's really important. Another analogy that I'll use today is one that I heard last week on the inner circle that I'm a part of. We had our summit last week, and of course it was virtual, and our keynote speaker, Jerry, oh, I'm sorry, Jerry, I'm not remembering your last name right now. He was talking about this idea for leadership, to remember that everybody went through the same storm, this COVID-19, but not everybody was in the same boat. And I think that's really important. Even our storms were kind of different, right? If you didn't become infected by the virus, if you didn't have a loved one that was infected or was hospitalized or something, our storms were even different. But I think particularly the boats, and the boats that we are, as leaders, we are bringing all of these boats back to shore, right? We, as the leadership, we're kind of like the lighthouse that is bringing these boats back to shore. And some of the boats are going to be really tattered and beat up by this storm, and they're barely holding together. And there are some people that, let's face it, have summer homes, other places, and they just kind of went and worked from home. If they had decent Wi-Fi, they took the road trip with the kids and just traveled around or whatever, right? So maybe they're kind of sailing in on their yacht because they kind of enjoyed themselves a bit during this time of COVID, and they had a lot of family time and whatnot. So just as we re-enter, I think it's really important to keep some of these things in mind and to keep the communication going, of course. Um, why, wouldn't I be talking about the communication piece? And that, of course, is what my focus is on with all of my Beyond the Box programs, which are geared towards taking you beyond this box that we're in virtually back to face to face. And what about that hybrid? That's another whole thing, right? Many of our meetings are going to be hybrid, and how do we pay attention to the people that are on screen and the people that are right in front of us. So this kind of idea of reentry is something to be cognizant of. I think it's something to work with the consultants in your life that are working on this reentry. That it's not only the legality and keeping people safe, but it's also what are we doing? That's what we talked about last week with Martha on the voice and what we can do to have more vocal power. And today I'm going to be reiterating some of the things on the body language side. What do you need to be doing in the box as well as when you're back to the office? Because it is going to be a little bit weird. And any of you that are out there, I would love for you to put in the comments, what is your biggest concern about going back to the office, or if you've already been back for a couple of days or checking in periodically, what's the weirdest thing for you? Is it meeting other people? Is it riding up in an elevator with somebody else? Is it just the awkward, what's going to replace the handshake? We don't know. Right now, I've been seeing a lot of people going back to the elbow thing, which is a little bit weird, the pokey elbow. I've been seeing a lot of fist bumps, which is still kind of a lot of contact. So, because our hands aren't covered. And there's also just the awkward standing there, right? When you see somebody and both of you take that half step towards each other, and then you go, oh, yeah, we can't do that. And so then it becomes this awkward high moment, right? And then it feels very much like virtual, even though we are face to face, because we're putting more distance between ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I've always found it funny that we open and close our Zooms with this odd little handshake wave thing. I wish I knew who started it. Because it would be really interesting to trace back to where did this Zoom wave start, and why has it become part of the virtual culture that we feel like we need to wave, which is a little bit it's just kind of funny to me because we don't necessarily do that in a normal meeting, but we feel like we need to wave when it's on a screen. So a couple of announcements for everybody before I go into the body language piece, give more people a chance to join us today. But I think because this LinkedIn Lives is working out okay, and I've been able to sustain it now for how many weeks has it been? I don't know, 12 weeks, 20 weeks, whatever it's been, that I'm going to rebrand a little bit so that it is Listen with Your Eyes Live, because you know that I'm all about listening with your eyes and I want to get that message out there. And if we brand it as much as we can, I need to get a logo for it or something, but listening with your eyes is so important. And that's really where we bump up our communication. We are so focused on verbal that comes out of our mouth, and those are even the things that end up often in our performance reviews and things like that. It's all language. What about the behavior piece, right? There's a lot that we could do to improve our communication by the nonverbal signals that we send and receive, and how you observe those around you. So listening with your eyes is just, I'm going to go, full bore with it. And there's also a new program that I'm launching that is the Listening with Your Eyes business membership, so that every month your team is receiving this kind of valuable information from me. And there's different levels. And so you could have some one-on-one time with me. It could be group stuff. It could be online messaging that comes out and gets shared at your meetings in order to up everybody's observation skills and understanding what the signals mean that they're sending, because that's the problem. It is the tension that's happening in your offices is because people brain process is different, and therefore their behavior is different. And we like people who move like us. It's natural. When you feel like you make a connection with somebody, it's often because they have a similar movement pattern to you. So your limbic brain, that old-fashioned brain, is just jiving because this person's like me. They're okay, they're cool, there's no threat here because they move like me. Some people in your office don't move like you, and it's that gut reaction that goes, I don't like this person because they're not enough like me. Like hires, like, we know that we tend to stay in our groups that are similar to us, right? Tons of the problems in our world happen to be because some factions don't like other factions, and we stay apart rather than understanding and getting to know one another. What if we started in our workplaces? There are studies that have said that if we are going to come to some form of equality, gender, racial, uh, LGBTQ, all of that kind of stuff. If we're going to cross these divides, it's going to happen in our workplaces because that's where we have the exposure to more of a diverse type of people in general. Often our churches are very much people just like us. There isn't necessarily a lot of diversity in our churches, in our neighborhoods, in our schools. It just, so the workplace is kind of where this can happen. So maybe we need to be starting that revolution. And one way to do that is to encourage everybody to listen with their eyes, understand the nonverbals that they're seeing from each other, and that they're not threatening, that it is a signal of the thought process that are going on in the brain. And if my thought process doesn't match your thought process, it doesn't mean that we don't get along. It doesn't mean that we can't get along. It just means that I need to respect you and your thought process and say, I understand that. For me, this is more important, right? If I'm talking to somebody who's like, oh, we got to get moving, we got to just get this thing going because we're going to miss out, I may say, I understand that. And you're right. There is an opportunity here, but I want to make sure that we have all of the information that we need before we leap into signing a contract with this company. Right? That is honoring the other person and their needs, their thought process, because they feel a lot of urgency to get this done. And it also is letting them know why I am, in their minds, stalling them, holding them back. And that's what a lot of my training does. It's about understanding both sides without calling it diversity and inclusion training, without calling it things that tend to put up barriers to begin with. It is just, hey, let's get along better by improving our behavior, our subconscious behavior, and understanding how that works in our lives. So if this is at all interesting, if you want to have a conversation, definitely reach out to me. I'm trying to remember. I did a little thing there. Connect with me. I'm trying to learn StreamYard a little bit better. Can you tell? So reach out to me and say, hey, let's have a conversation. What was that? Listen with your eyes, membership kind of thing. It's a way to have me and the skills that your teams may need a little bit more in your back pocket. And particularly right now, everybody is a reflection of your brand. Everybody is going to be on video. Everyone's going to be making presentations. Everybody's virtual. If any of these ways that your employees need to show up and support you and represent your brand, if those things need improved, this is really a great way to do it because we can customize which parts of things I bring in. For some clients, we're working all media right now because they are really working on their TV spots and recording videos and doing panels or presentations, with leaders in their industry to raise the level of their company, those sorts of things. Your nonverbals are huge for that. Some people are looking at their bottom line and saying, you know what, COVID did kind of hit us a little bit on the bottom line. We survived, but now we really need our business development to take a step up. So let's work on increasing our sales. Well, obviously, the body language is huge for sales. So wherever you need it, maybe it's even in you're doing a lot of hiring and you need to better look at the interviews that you're having because you don't want to pick the wrong people for this next phase. You want to make sure that you get it right. We can train your managers and your HR people for what to look for in an interview as well. So many things. Definitely reach out to me. And so I wanted to also talk about something fun that's going to be happening once a month, the last Wednesday of the month. And I haven't decided what time it's going to be yet, like 11, 12, 1. I don't think it'll be in the morning, but the last Wednesday of the month. So that's coming up. I forget which one this first one is, May 20 something. We are going to do a listening with your eyes tells. I'm still working on the name of it. I'm not sure whether that's going to be it for sure, but we're going to have fun teaching and observing each other a little bit every month. So you can come. It will be probably invitations generally, rather than just blasting it out there, so that we keep it kind of small, but that you get a little bit of this brilliance of listening with your eyes and me telling you what it is that you do inadvertently. What are your tells? And we're also going to be looking at other people, like celebrities that have been in the news and maybe some of the gaffes and some of the things that they're doing, which just to keep it kind of fun and kind of light. And this was sort of inspired by the recent requests that I've been having from the media. Now, it's not only political kinds of things, but last week I was asked to watch the Jimmy Kimmel, Mike Lindell interview because they were curious as to what Mike Lindell was going to do because, of course, he's kind of a crazy figure. And so I was like, all right, sure, I'll stay up late and watch it. Well, let me get the picture here. Trying to remember where it is. Aha. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple screenshots and I'm going to talk you through these. And I have TikTok that talks about it. I did a blog that just went up this week about this behavior. And it's kind of funny because some of the comments on the TikTok were like, well, we thought you were going to show the video and talk about it. Bummer. And I'm like, well, TikTok's only a minute long and the interview is a lot longer than a minute. So of course I had to just choose a couple of moments and a couple of screenshots to share. Never mind that when you repost and do this kind of thing, you get flagged by like Facebook and the social media things because this is copyrighted content from Jimmy Kimmel that then I would be using. So it's sort of funny. I was getting, oh, bummer, you didn't really show the video. Well, go back and watch the video if you want. These are some screenshots. Here we go. So let me take the thing off the bottom here. There we go. So I was very surprised that that Mike did so much of this scrunching, that he put his hands together. You can't see his hands here, but he put his hands together like between his knees, and he just looks kind of small and diminutive and kind of childlike, which was interesting. And he did this several times during the interview. He also was floppy with a lot of his gesturing. Let me go back to me for a second. I can't remember how to do that. Hold on. Now I can't remember how to get him off. There we go. So there's a lot of this kind of scritchy thing going on. He was just sort of floppy too. Even when he was pointing at Jimmy Kimmel, it wasn't strong. And for somebody who it seems to be uh, emulating or wanting to have the power and the platform of somebody like former President Trump, he doesn't do any of the he doesn't take any of the body language cues from Trump. There, he even did his palms down at one point, which is a no. Like, leave your palms up. We know the accordion Trumpism, but he didn't do any of that. There was one moment, the strongest moment, he did open up his arms, but the other curious thing that he did was this putting his thumb in, like, literally in his mouth and against his teeth. So I had put in my comments, was this a slight FU moment to Jimmy Kimmel? Was this is he sticking his dentures back up in there? Wasn't sure what this moment was about. But obviously, you don't want to be putting your fingers in your mouth when you're on national television or in any kind of interviewing situation. Or so I thought that was odd. There were some people, again, lots of TikTok comments, right? It's had like 3,000 views or something. And so, of course, I get a lot of interesting comments. Some of them, how much they hate me, which is fine, whatever. There are always going to be haters out there. But many people were saying how, well, he's a former crack addict. He looks like he's high. He's probably, still on drugs and that kind of stuff, which I thought was interesting because there was a very fidgety, lots of movement kind of thing, whether that was just nervousness. He kind of tapped his toes a little bit too, the few times that they had the widest views so that you could see his feet. His feet were a little bouncy. And that could have been nerves. That could have been, other things. I've seen a lot of comments too that are like, good for you, Mike, you stood up to the bullies and that kind of thing. So there's always going to be both sides of this conversation. But these are the kinds of things that we might be looking at on our last Wednesday of the month thing. Who's done something interesting throughout the month that we could put some pictures up and just talk about, or show some video clips and analyze. So it won't be just about you, but it'll be teaching you a little bit about how to listen with your eyes. So that'll be a Wednesday thing that will be happening. I'm checking my notes here because I actually do make notes before I go live. Just see what else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, that's pretty. Oh, I know what I teased today on LinkedIn though, which I should do. So see, these mugs, they just don't keep the coffee as hot. Got to go back to my Yeti. No offense, Star Wars, but it's already getting cold. I teased the Judy Bloom book, Dear God, It's Me, Margaret. And maybe it was her passing that kind of brought this back up to me, but I often think of that book when I'm talking about upper body movement. And so if any of you know that book, go ahead and chat to me right now if you know what I'm about to do and show you is now, if you're a guy, this is probably not a book you read. If you are 40 years and up, you probably have read this book. I don't know whether the younger folks still read it, but it certainly was one that I read growing up because it is this kind of rite of passage book for girls. And one of the things that Margaret and her little group of friends does is they are very concerned about growing their female parts, shall we say, right? And so one of the things that they do is they have this little club and they do, we must increase our bust. And they do that day in and day out. So I know everybody in my generation tried it. So maybe it's still happening with girls around the world. I don't know. But it didn't do a whole lot for me, obviously, but for some people, maybe it works. The reason that I'm going into this is because this is the part of the body that we need to be using when we are uh, communicating how much we care about somebody, the collaboration. I know I talk a lot about this, but this is the top part of the body that I don't see very many body language people talking about, like its effects and how it really does change the dynamic of the room. I did a TikTok on this as well, on the we must. Since I can't remember how many views it has. I've been experimenting with TikTok. It's kind of fun. But, that audience certainly doesn't know that book or probably who Judy Bloom was. Maybe they know Ralph and the motorcycle books. But when it comes to some of her other ones, they probably don't. Or Fudge, there were so many great books. So this is the warm up that we all need to be doing. What I teased on LinkedIn today, you're going to learn the warm up that comes from Judy Bloom's book. This is it. So you don't have to say the words, but you should be warming up this part of your body before you get on Zoom in the morning or before you walk into those office meetings, because this is what we really need to access. And the more we can stay human and three-dimensional through the screen and in person, the better off we're going to be. So I will end it there, everybody. I'm not sure how many minutes we're up to. Oh, not even a half hour yet. So that's good. Enjoy your day. Next week, we are back with guests. So don't, if you enjoy the guest format better, don't worry. Next week, we are back with that. Make sure that you check in with me. Don't forget to email me at allison@movingimageconsulting.com to ask me anything, right? There are so many ways that I can be of service right now with you and your companies. So there are going to be some fun things happening for the summer. Those Wednesday offerings, the last Wednesday of the month, we'll keep our LinkedIn Lives going. I'm always putting other content out there. Of course, the membership, there's an executive presence mastermind group that is forming right now. And if you think that you would like to learn this on a deeper level in order to insert it into the consulting that you do or into the human resources skills that you have, into the business improvisation stuff that you do, whatever it is. If you would like to have a higher level of this body language training, I am going to be certifying people in the Listen with Your Eyes philosophy, theory, how it works on a deeper level where you're really learning to observe on a different level and the ability to bring that to your clients. And if you're interested in that, that will be starting this summer in June. And so I would encourage you to talk to me about that too, because that could be a whole nother facet to your business and what it is that you do, the ability to have the skill on a deeper level. So with that, I am signing off. Have a fantastic day. Reach out, let me know what's going on, and we'll talk next week.